morning, fellow adventurers. We are back out here with Mount Wrightson looming to the south before me. I stood on this exact hillside 2 months ago and had to get picked up because there was a huge rain and it ended up being a winter storm for these mountains down here. As you can see, a little bit of snow up there. It's now, oh God. I left the trail on November 20th and it is now January 21st, 2020. So it's been 2 months since I've been out here. So hopefully the trail legs are still at least a little bit there. I know I am as willful as ever and ready to get this thing done. 83 miles left to go to Mexico. I hope to be there over the next 5 days. As you can see, it is still pretty cloudy and rainy here. It wasn't supposed to be this way today, but you know, Mother Nature likes keeping it interesting. So we're gonna be hiking about 11 miles today to the Gardner Canyon trailhead. Just getting the trail legs back on, and then the big miles will come over the next few days between Mount Wrightson and Miller Peak. And then after Miller Peak, that's the Mexican border. So we're almost there, friends. Let's get this adventure through. As I'm sure many of you are aware, there's sort of a condition that thru hikers talk about where after you get off the trail, you get a little depressed, the, you know, after trail blues, if you will. And during my sabbatical from trail for those 2 months, I definitely was dealing with a lot of that. And it was, I guess, added to because many of my friends and family back home had this expectation that when I was home for Thanksgiving, I'd be done with the whole trail. So during the holiday season, it was packed with a lot of loaded questions that I gladly took, and you know, I'm glad that people care about my success in this journey so much, but internally, it also added a lot of stress to actually get out here and get it done, and it made me thirst for the completion of this trail so much more. I'm glad I got to spend that time back at home for those 2 months and truly reflect on what this trail means to me, what I've learned about myself, and how it's changed my character, how it's built me up. Those kind of changes to your character and spirit, in a way, your soul, those really take a lot of time and a lot of thought, and you have to mull over that in your brain, and you have these spread out feelings where, you know, the mountains make you feel a certain way. What does that mean? How do you put words to that? So over these last 2 months, I feel like I've really been focusing on that. And now, finally coming out to finish this trail, to meet my own goals and others' expectations of this trip, and I guess their goals for me, it brings about a lot of different emotions. And once I'll be at Mexico, I'm sure I'll be so overwhelmed, and maybe something will make more sense, but maybe it won't. But what I came out on this trail for isn't to do a fastest known time. Maybe it's for the slowest known time, who knows? And it wasn't for, I guess in a way it was trying to prove something to myself that I could do it, but there was never a speed element to it. There were challenges, but I didn't come out here expressly because of the challenge. I felt it more as an opportunity to grow as a person and to inspire that spiritual, holistic character change within myself. I don't know what sort of change I've been searching for out here for these 800 miles, but something significant is out here. And there's very special lessons that come from being so in touch with your mortality and the everyday struggle of living. It helps you appreciate things back home so much more. Helps you realize how strong you truly are and how you can truly bear the brunt of life's struggle. So while I'm not mad that I took these 2 months off trail, I think it helped with that goal in a way. And honestly, I don't care how I look in comparison to other thru hikers, because at the end of the day, you need to hike your own hike when you're out here. You need to listen to your own body and find those lessons within yourself. Sure, being in such an exposed and beautiful area helps bring about some of those feelings of inspiration that come from that grandeur and that feeling that you're just one little speck on this globe. But at the same time, the things you do with your time, with your life, seem all the more significant. There was a pretty moderate rain last night. You can see some puddles here. So the trail's a little bit muddy, which is slippy, but definitely still hikeable. But the really cool part is, because all of these trees around me are absorbing a bunch of that water through their root system, that forces some of their essential oils into the air. So as I'm walking through this area of juniper, and I think some scrub oak, some normal oak, maybe a pine tree or two, it's just this intense piney smell that is just everywhere right now. It's so good smelling. Almost feels therapeutic and calming. Just leaving Kentucky Camp right now. These structures were actually built in 1904 to form the headquarters of the Sahuarita Water and Mining Company, which operated in these lands around the turn of the century. They obviously needed a headquarters for organizing their mining operation. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a cool little spot along the AZT though, because it lets you literally walk through some of this state's history. And you can actually, for $75 a night, camp in the bunkhouse of Kentucky Camp. And that bunkhouse fits 4 people. Definitely would do that if I was hiking with a group right now. That'd be pretty epic. But it also says the room's occupied and whatever. I'm gonna be camping with my parents tonight anyway, and we have a trailer, so whatever. But it's a cool little opportunity where you can experience how people used to survive and even thrive in this awesome environment. So you see these little ditches like here with mounds kind of around it and how it undulates. These mounds are actually from mining techniques that have been used since the 1870s. And namely in this area, it was used because the pay dirt where the gold bearing sediment is just on top of the bedrock here. So 1870s on, this is an early mining technique, they would dig these tiny little pits to get down to that bedrock because it's not too far below the surface. And the surface dirt that's not really gold bearing or worth much would be cast aside, making the subsequent mound. And the Sahuarita Mining and Water Company was called that because in these gulches like this, water very rarely flows here. So water actually had to be carried down to these areas, or the sediments had to be carried up to a spring or a well where they had water, so that the gold that was bound up in the sediment, such as clay, could be cleaned out of that whole grouping of sediments. Because that clay and sand sticks so well, you need a stream of water in order to separate the two. Because gold is so heavy, it sinks to the bottom and everything else gets washed away with the water. Kind of cool to see relics from that era, from the 1870s. You can still see evidence of their economic activity in this area. And even back a ways, you know, camp like they used to. It's really, really cool. Another little factoid for you guys. The water, if it were to be carried to the sediment, was done on the backs of donkeys or burros. And the cost of that back in the day was 3 cents per gallon, which I'm sure was very expensive back then, but now it seems like nothing. The image that they had on the little informational placard back a little ways showed this donkey carrying these 2 giant bags of water. Thing almost, you know, standing up straight, this donkey, these water bags would reach almost to the thing's feet. I can only imagine how much weight that is. At, you know, 8 pounds per gallon of water, that poor animal must have been strong. I know when I was carrying a measly 6 gallons of water back in the desert section a little while ago, my back was hurting really bad, and that was 6 gallons. It's probably hard, like not even close to enough to process any gold at all. Definitely puts things into perspective a little bit. The sun's finally coming out a little bit. Hey, that's something. Wow, that's bright. Wish I grabbed my sunglasses from the car before I took off this morning. Oh, look at that view behind me. That's crazy. Oh, cannot wait for tomorrow when all this clears up a little bit. I mean, it's beautiful for photos and everything. I just wish I could see the tops of these mountains. And Mount Wrightson is actually straight ahead of me here. Let me give you a look. It's all encased in these clouds. If I'm to be, I'm not going right over the peak, but if I'm to be going up significantly in elevation tomorrow, that's going to be a little bad if it's all in the clouds. Very exciting. Almost one day in the bag. Tomorrow's going to be a bit harder because we're going over some mountains and it's going to be a bit longer. So I'm going to try and huff it all the way to Patagonia. So it's going to be a 20+ miler. But I also won't have to be fighting the rain first thing in the morning. Because this morning we all woke up to some pretty significant rain pounding on the top of the camper. So we took it nice and slow. I appreciate the time to sleep in, but it doesn't do much for trying to get miles done if it's not cooperating with you getting out and walking your walk, you know? Hello friends, came across something really cool though. See this rock pile here? How it goes and continues over here? This actually used to be where a water pipe would cross this section of the valley. After they needed so much water that the burros couldn't handle it anymore, or maybe it was cheaper, I'm unsure, but they actually had the Sahuarita Water and Mining Company installed a water pipe that goes from Bear Spring, which I'll be hiking to tomorrow, back close to that gulch where I was talking about those shallow little mining ditches. It would carry the water over there so that they didn't have to keep shipping it. And most of that pipeline is actually underground because that helps support the weight of the water more, or it did. I don't think this is in use anymore. But that section behind me there, they actually had to build it above ground because very, very hard limestone bedrock came up to the surface there, and they found it easier to just construct it straight across than to dig down in the bedrock. Here's the pipeline that I'm talking about. Right here. It's part of what's left of it. Good morning, friends. First little bit of trail today was a lot of road walk, so I've spared you the pain. I'm now just making my way towards the Mount Wrightson Wilderness. We're about 3 or 4 miles into today, and I hope to be in Patagonia tonight for dinner. Hiking up and over these mountains that are gloriously misty. Pretty epic right now. Pretty epic. We're also gonna be trying a slightly new recording tactic today, but I'm sure you guys already know about that by now, because I probably already used the clip from it. But yes, we have a drone out here with me now. I got one for Christmas this year, and I've loved using it so far, and this is my first actual hike out into the wilderness with it. Obviously, you cannot use drones in wilderness areas or in national parks or in Arizona's state parks, and I am observing these rules. So once I get to this wilderness area, which is in I think it's under a mile now, I will not be flying it, but up on that ridge line is where I had my first flight out in Coronado National Forest. So basically, as long as the area is pretty much devoid of other people and there's no expectation of privacy, like obviously you can't fly the drone over someone's backyard. That would not be good. So out here you can fly it because there's not many people. But it's very important to follow those rules, or else you can get in a lot of trouble. And you obviously have to follow FAA guidelines, but if you're a drone enthusiast yourself, then you'll probably already know all that. So I just made it to, I believe this is Bear Spring. And this is where that water pipeline that I was walking by yesterday actually starts. There's a little water tank. Obviously they don't use it right now, but yeah. Back in there, I think, is where the pipeline starts. Let's see if I could find it for you guys. Yo, Bear! Oh yeah, look at this. That's the old tunnel. That was the start of the pipeline, I believe. Right in there. How neat. These relics of history are still present out here, you know? It's kind of cool. So I'm gonna make some tracks, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. It's crazy. There's so much water up here, either due to the recent rains or the snow melt up on top of the peaks starting to melt off. It's probably a combination of both, to be honest. As my mother would say, nature is a verb. And it's happening out here, guys. Here's another little mountain stream coming from over here. That's so neat. Oh my God. So yeah, it's a cool hike so far today. I've gone like no miles because I'm like, wow, it's so pretty, I need to record it all. So now I'm actually gonna try and get some miles in. Hello, my friends. We're in the Mount Wrightson Wilderness now. There's a really loud creek all the way down the bottom of this canyon. It's kind of awesome. So really quick, I know I talked about manzanita bushes back when I was up close to the Mogollon Rim. And now, like this manzanita bush, it has flowers all over it. And I said up there that the flowers are actually edible. And they're actually really good tasting. It kind of has like a hint of like a honey flavor to it. Bit of water on the lens. Not bad. A lot of moisture out here. Make sure that doesn't look awful. All right, we're good. So yeah, manzanita flowers. Very delicious. Tastes a bit like honey, especially if you get one with a bit of nectar in the middle of it. There's also a risk you might get a bug or so in one of the flowers, but it's actually one of my favorite little snacks I've found out here. Very yummy. And if it's good enough for the bears, it's good enough for me. I'm kidding though. That's probably not a good rule of thumb to go by for edibility. But I've tested that one before on myself. And another little note on wild foraging. Even if someone else says that it's edible, if it's something you've never had before, you should do the test on yourself where, you know, you don't just straight up go and eat it. You start off by rubbing whatever plant part you intend to eat on a sensitive part of your body. So like the crook of your elbow or like on your hip, something like that. If you're carrying a backpack, mush it between your hip belt and your hip, and then see if you end up breaking out in blisters or any rash or anything like that. If that happens, do not eat it because you were probably allergic. It was explained in my outdoor survival class in college that for a lot of those more exotic wild edibles, there are definitely people who are allergic to them. And that obviously takes your situation of, oh, I'm starving, to, oh good, I'm starving and my throat's closing now. So you don't want to take too many unnecessary risks if you're in a dire situation like that. Yeah. It's kind of cool. It definitely wouldn't work if you had a horse though. You'd definitely get knocked off. That's kind of cool how they, I wonder if the rock fell after the trail was built and they had to blast through it, or if they're just like, nah, we're not going around it. We're going through it. It's fine. Just bumped into my first thru hiker of this jaunt. A guy that goes by the name Kilo. Really chill dude. We stopped by, well, actually I came around the corner right as the trail was crossing the creek here. And thinking there might be a bear by the water or something, you know, I let out the little, oh, hey bear, making sure if something was down there, I'd flush it out and I wouldn't be bothered. But then I turned the corner and there's a guy sitting by the creek. He's like, oh my God, he just scared me. Funny, very funny. We then proceeded to, you know, chat for, oh, quite a while. He said that I'm the first thru hiker that he's seen since he started 5 or 6 days ago at the southern terminus. So it was good to talk to him. Really chill dude. Both talked tips about the trail going forward. Very helpful. As I've said time and time again in these videos, the trail culture out here is so cool. Just how helpful everybody is, where they try to look out for each other and they try to ensure everyone has a good time out here. It was funny, I know I've talked about this in my videos as well, where that mental game, keeping your mind occupied, is kind of the hardest part of the trail. And he started talking about how, like, yeah, you know, I bumped into some day hikers a few days ago, but the isolation really sucks. You know, you don't have a buddy out here to talk to as you hike. And that kind of sucks, like just keeping it all in your own head. But you know, that isolation is nice, as he said, and I agree. But after several days of it, not talking to nobody, it wears on you a little bit. So now I'm beginning my climb up and over the Mount Wrightson ridgeline. And then it's basically, as Kilo put it, it's a 14 mile road walk downhill to Patagonia from there. So truthfully, This is the last big crazy climb until I hit Miller Peak, which is going to be my last day on trail. Whew. Another beautiful little mountain stream. How pleasant. All right, I'll talk to you guys if I see something cool. Once I get to the top of this mountain, we'll see which one happens. Hello friends. I got to the top of this climb just about. I just have to take this little bend in the trail and I'm popping over the ridgeline. But check out this view. Still a little socked in, with the lights playing beautifully out there in the rolling fields. Can't wait to see what's on the other side of this ridge, see if it opened up anymore. Technically speaking, if I wanted to summit Mount Wrightson, I would just keep continuing the ridgeline up that way. I believe there's even a trail to do it. That's not on the docket for today though. And as you can see, it is very, very cloudy up there. I only caught Wrightson for a glimpse earlier while the clouds were blowing around it. I couldn't even see the whole thing. But I could make out that there's a bunch of tripping hazards on this trail. There's a bunch of snow up on the peak right now. Whew. Deadfall, man. So there's snow up there, so I'm not going to do it. And I still have many miles to cover. I think I have at least 12 or 13 more to go. So here's hoping they're not too bad. I heard that it's, as I think I told you guys already, it's basically a road walk all the way down from this ridge line. But there's actually a temporary reroute that's at least marked on Guthook. But everyone is saying don't take the reroute right now, even though they're working on the trail / road. Because the reroute, at least right now, takes you through a really muddy canyon and adds about 5 miles. So, we'll see what happens when I get there. But if I magically appear in Patagonia on video, you'll know what happened. Yep, here's my junction. I now made it to the top of the Ritson Ridge. Sweet. Gardner Canyon Trail, 1.5 miles left. Sweet. Alrighty. We just have a little bit more wilderness area to get through. It's just on the other side of this downhill that way. So it's really exciting. I'll see you guys on the way down. I'm not sure you guys can really get the scope of how kind of crappy this trail is on the way down here. Whew. It's very large and loose rock. Kind of reminiscent of the descent down Mount Lemon. If you've seen that one, you can stay here if you haven't yet. But when I ran into Kilo earlier, he said like, oh, your way down off that mountain is so much more manicured and so much better than the way that you're gonna go down. I'm like, we'll see, you know. But yeah, he's absolutely right. I was spoiled by the hike on the way up here. So I feel really bad for you northbounders, because this rough climb is also like twice the climb. So not only was my ascent a lot less. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Slippery, I told you. From a southbounder's perspective, that climb is not only significantly fewer vertical feet, it is also a much better trail to climb up. Like, I could not imagine trying to go uphill on this. This would kind of be awful, I'm not gonna lie. I'm now about 13 miles out of Patagonia, and it is just a little bit after noon. Whoa! This is crazy! Check it out! It's a dam. Wow. Oh! It's like an old trough or something here. That's really cool, the dam up there. Huh. Wow. And there's an AZT sign. Let's see what it has to say. So, let's see. I was between these two when I started today. I was there a little bit ago. Hiked 734 miles according to the signs now. That's nuts. It's kind of crazy how much water is just dumping off of this mountain. It's ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen this much water in one area in Arizona. Maybe my timing's just really good. Ooh, that one's rolly. Now, where's a good crossing? There? Yeah. Let's try this. Whoop. This is where hiking poles come in handy so much. Oh boy. Another creek crossing. Yep, that's my trail. So we're gonna try going around the side. That gets deep. I'm not looking to go for a swim today. What the heck? Crazy. I'll talk to you guys in a minute. As I said, there's a lot of water out here, especially due to the recent rains and that snow melt. It's crazy. I've probably recorded half of the stream crossings I've had to do today. That one was by far the biggest though. Most of them are just little rivulets. Very, very beautiful, but definitely slows you down just a little bit. Back there a little ways, I actually saw a dead cow, which made me really sad. Looked like it was kind of fresh too. It's a shame. And ironically enough, just on the other side of the cow, there was one of those traffic barricades that said, warning, danger ahead. I guess the cow didn't heed the warning. Too funny. So I was always curious to see if these solar or wind powered water pumps actually work, and this one seems to be in the best condition yet. So let's try it out, eh? Oh, wow. Wow. That's pretty awesome. Wonder if it's drinkable or not. I didn't bring any water treatment out with me today, which might have been a mistake, being I'm only carrying 3 liters for 20 something miles. So might be thirsty when I get to Patagonia, but I know I haven't hit my water too hard yet because it just started getting warm. So we're making it work, guys. I guess that traffic barricade I was telling you about was the temporary closure, but the sign was cast to the side, so I don't know what that means for me. So now I'm just on the official AZT, I guess. It's private property back here, I guess. Looks like it could be a mine. Anyhow, so I'm on the main trail. I guess it's not closed anymore because the sign wasn't all set up. Or maybe I'm breaking the law right now, I don't know. I don't think so, because it should have been clearly marked if I shouldn't be here, and it was like in a bush on the side of the trail, just on the ground. So it wasn't at all set up in a way where it would have been seen unless I was keeping an eye for it. And that was about a half mile ago. So not adding extra miles today. The road's finally taken us away from the creek a little bit, so that's good. I don't even know what creek that is. Maybe Temporal Creek? This is Temporal Gulch, or maybe that's just Temporal Gulch and it's flowing for once. I know according to my Garmin app on my phone, it doesn't give a name, but it's not a perennial stream. It's a inconsistent water source. So those of you that are doing this trail not during snowmelt or recent rain, I wouldn't count on it. But there are also a number of stock ponds for livestock out here that you could probably pump from. They look a little green though, so be ready for that. Would not recommend just dipping and boiling. Be a little rough, man. Also, I've seen nothing else on that temporary closure, so I think we're good. See what happens. The great road walk continues. I just bumped into another northbounder actually, and he seemed to be in a bit of a hurry because it is getting a little late. It's like 4:30 now. Still have a few more miles to Patagonia, but it's all road walk, so it's pretty boring. Basically, since I've been out of that wilderness area, it's been just 2-track or bigger, as you can see behind me. It's been really, really pretty. And now I know a really cool spot to camp, so that's nice. But getting a little bit old. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, where hopefully I'll be hiking a little bit more footpath instead of just roads. So here's hoping.